Good morning, BookTube, YouTube. This is Johnny. As you all know, I am alone here. My wife is gone out visiting our daughter and her family out in Denver, Colorado. And I am here in Southwest Michigan, just going through the day or the morning. It is April the 15th. 2025 is 9:36 in the morning. I've been up since 15 to 6. I don't know why I got up so early. I thought I might as well just get up and face the day and go through the day. I can always lay down if I can't stay awake. So I got up. I've been writing in my paper diary, and I read this morning for devotions this Nunez, the Carthusian on the Psalms. I read on Psalm 105, no, 106. I read on Psalm 106, and now I'm on Psalm 107. So I read that this morning, and then I've been reading Meditations on the Life and Passion of Christ by John Toller. He lived from 1300 and he died in 1361. This is a translation put out by a Lutheran, evangelical Lutherans. So I read that. Yeah, I had to get out my April diary, which you know has a calendar on it, to see if this is the week that's Easter. I wasn't sure if this was the week that the Holy Week. I wasn't sure, so I got my diary out, and yeah, today is the 15th, and on the 18th of April is Good Friday, and then on the 20th is Resurrection Sunday, and also Eastern Orthodox Resurrection Sunday. So yeah, this is Holy Week. So that's probably why I got this out, the Meditations on the Life and Passion of Christ, because I was reading the chapter, Jesus is given vinegar. And then the next chapter is Jesus is stripped of his garments. So that's probably why I got it out. Because I read this morning, and then I got really sleepy. So I've been kind of wandering around the house, and outside it's gray, it's cold, it's rainy, it's dismal. And so I'm watching the birds and writing in my diary and messing with the main computer and looking at my books. Yesterday I read Orthodox yet Modern, Herman Bavinck's use of Friedrich Schlemacher by Cory C. Brock. I read that yesterday, and I've been reading Bavinck, A Critical Biography by James Ellington. I kind of put this in the category of nonfiction, so I read this in the afternoons. And then I told you I finished reading The Friend, a novel by Sigrid Nunez. Yeah, I watched again this morning the movie trailer with Naomi Watts and Bill Murray. This film, there's a film coming out based on this book. Yeah, I had this book down the lower level, and I thought about doing a review of it or sharing my reflections. One thing I liked about this book is not only the story about the dog, which is a Great Dane named Apollo, but also she writes a lot about writing and being a writer, because the main character is a writer who, and Bill Murray, well, in the novel, it opens up with a memorial service for the main character, the person who has committed suicide, and he was her mentor, and they were very close friends for many, many years, and then it opens up with a memorial service for this writer who was the mentor of the main character. I forgot what her name is. If she's ever really mentioned the name, her name was... Don't know if it mentions her name. The people, when they do book reviews, they always mention names of the characters. Did I ever really write down the name of the character? Anyway, she goes to this memorial service for her friend who committed suicide. And this writer friend who was her mentor and really close, intimate friend for many, many years. As you read the novel, you find out that he had gone through several marriages. And the last marriage, at the memorial service, the third wife says to the main character that she wanted to get together with her. Well, anyway, you find out that the mentor, the writer who committed suicide, had left his dog, and his third wife did not want the dog, but the mentor, who's played by Bill Murray, had told his third wife that his best friend, this woman, would take the dog because she liked pets. Anyway, I won't go into the whole book. But throughout the novel, there's a lot of meditations and reflections on writing and being a writer. And that's what I really liked about the book. At first, I wasn't really sure what the book was about. Was it a book about the friend, the dog being the friend, or... But then, as you get through the book, there's that storyline, and it's really a very heartwarming story. But I like the parts about where the author talks about writers in writing. That's all I'm saying. So, I also finished reading Astoria by Carlos Francisca, translated by Megan McDowell. I read his book before. I showed you Natural History by Carlos Francisco, and then I bought this used, and I read it. And tell you the truth, it was pretty bizarre. I read it, but I can't really tell you what it was about. It's just a very strange novel, but so I read that. And then I've been finishing reading Ingenious Gentleman and Poet Federico Garcia Lorca, Ascends to Hell by Carlos Rojas, translated by Edith Grossman. So I'm still reading this, and I'm almost done with it. I usually read it before I go to bed at night. I think I got about 20 pages left in this. I read his other novel, The Fallen, last year, which I really can't remember, but I read it. And says Carlos Rojas is Charles Howard Candler, professor of Spanish emeritus at Emory University. He has received numerous important Spanish literary prizes, including the Primo Nana, a novelist, an art historian, and it goes on. So I read that. I've been reading it, almost done. Now, yesterday, on an impulse, I decided to go get a haircut. You probably noticed I look different. I usually get a haircut about every 6 months. And I decided to get a haircut I looked online and the waiting was there was no waiting period. So I decided to go get my haircut, which is only about 6 minutes from here. So I went and got a haircut, got my beard trimmed, and then on the way home, as you know, I cannot pass by a thrift store without stopping to see if there's any thrift store books. So I stopped at Action House, which is just down the street from where we live. And so I found some books at Action House. And I found a Georgia O'Keeffe biography. Now, you can't see it, but on the wall over there is a Georgia O'Keeffe poster or print, the Art Institute of Chicago, of a flower. And George O'Keeffe was very famous for doing paintings of flowers. I had a book, an art book of her paintings of flowers, and I looked for it last night down the lower level, and I could not find it. I don't know where it is. But she lived out in New Mexico. She lived in New York, and then she moved out to I think Santa Fe, New Mexico, and she lived there and she painted. And she's very famous. But this is her biography by Jeffrey Hogrefe. Yeah, I have 2 other biographies on George O'Keeffe and A Life of an American Legend. So I didn't have this one in my library. So I got this at the Action House, and then I found this at Action House, Birdmen, the Wright brothers, Glenn Curtis, and the Battle to Control the Skies. It's about the Wright brothers, and also it says here, from acclaimed historian Lawrence Goldstone comes a thrilling narrative of courage, determination, and competition, the story of the intense rivalry that fueled the rise of American aviation, the feud between the nation's great pioneers, the Wright brothers, and Glenn Curtis was a collision of profoundly American personalities. On one side, a pair of tenacious siblings who together had solved the centuries-old riddle of powered, heavier than air flight. On the other, an audacious motorcycle racer whose innovative aircraft became synonymous in the public mind with death-defying stunts. For more than a decade, they battled each other at air shows, in court, and in the newspapers. The outcome of this contest of wills would shape the course of aviation history. So, yeah, it looked kind of interesting. It's only 99 cents. And then I found this novel by Paul Auster. Paul Auster died recently, and I collect his writings. He wrote a biography of Hart Crane just before he died, the poet. But I bought this, and I have it in my library, but I wasn't sure. And then I found a novel I had already, but I had it in paperback. I collect the writings of Michael Chabon, and this is his fantasy, Summerland. I had this in paperback, and I found at Action House a hardback copy in perfect condition. So I like hardbacks if I can find them really cheap. So I'll put this in my car in the double box. I have 3 boxes of doubles, and I take them to Blue Stockings Bookshop for in-store credit. And then I collect different editions, hardback, paperback of Moby Dick. And I found this one I didn't have by a publisher I never heard of, Paper Mill Press. It looks kind of cheap in a way. Doesn't look really that well put together. It's probably just a money-making thing, but it says Paper Mill Press. It's stationed and found in Ontario. But anyway, this is it, Moby Dick. I don't know. I just collect these. I've tried to read Moby Dick, I don't know how many times. I get halfway through and then I always get bogged down in the part where Herman Melville goes into the whole process of when they get a whale and how they, I don't know, I just get bogged down in it. But so I found this edition of Moby Dick. And then I found a collection of essays by Phillip Lopate, Portrait of My Body. And this is, I collect the writings of Phillip Lopate. He primarily is famous for his essays. He's written some poetry, a couple of novels. And this is what I read last night, an essay by him called The Dead Father. The Dead Father, a remembrance of Donald Bartholomew, who is a modernist writer, short story. I collect his writings. I have a biography in him, Donald Bartholomew. So yeah, I collect the writings, and he also has edited short story collections, and I'll show those to you. He also wrote, Phillip Lopate, notes on Susan Sontag, which is in my Susan Sontag collection. There's a photo of her on the cover. And then he also edited The Golden Age of American Essay, 1945 to 1970, edited by Phillip Lopate. Yeah, they have essays in here by John Updike, Elizabeth Hardwick, Saul Billow, Irving Howe, Mary McCarthy, James Baldwin, Richard Hofstadter, Martin Luther King Jr., Norman Mailer, all the people I collect. He also edited, I have by Phillip Lopate, Selected Writings, Getting Personal. He's kind of, I like his essays because they're very personal, confessional. He's a very excellent, if you like reading essays. And sometimes what I do is I'll sit down in an afternoon or a week and I'll read over in the afternoon's essays. And then I found this one at some thrift store. So, but it's nothing, I think it's called Getting Personal, Selected Writings by Phillip Lopate. So, and then The Art of Personal Essay, an anthology from the classical era to the present, selected with an introduction by Phillip Lopate. Yeah, there's all kinds of essays in here. George Orwell, William Hazlitt, who from Charles Lamb. This is from in the past. Just it goes up to the modern period. Well, it goes from classical era to the present. In the present, they have essays like, Annie Dillard, Joan Dion, Wendell Berry, Gord Vidal, James Baldwin, people like that. And then he also did Writings, a Literary Anthology, New York. Writing, New York, a Literary Anthology, edited by Phillip Lopate. Yeah, I collect books on New York, but I also, these are essays based on New York City, like on Mark Twain, Willa Cather, Henry Miller, Thomas Wolfe, Edith Wharton, Don Powell, all on New York, John Cheever, William Burroughs, William Carlos Williams, who was a very famous poet, Mary McCarthy, Joyce Johnson, who she's a Beat scholar. She was a girlfriend of Jack Kerouac, and she wrote about that relationship. And Louis Munford, Elizabeth Allen Ginsberg. This goes on and on. So that's what he edited. He has other books. I ordered another book of essays of his last night, a paperback collection, which will be coming sometime this month. So yeah, I really like him, Phillip Lopate, his essays, and I don't have any of his novels or his poetry. So I found that. So I'll be reading these this afternoon, some more essays, and so that's what I found at Action House. Yeah, I don't know. Someday I'm gonna really sit down and finish and read Moby Dick. It's like I haven't read Ulysses by James Joyce. I've started it, James Joyce's Ulysses, and I haven't gotten through it. I've read, I think, book one, Remembrance of Times Past by Proust. Haven't finished it. And so there are other things, but pleased to find this. Oh yes, Phillip Lopate also did a book, Bachelorhood, Tales of the Metropolis, and these are also essays. So yeah, that's what I found at Action House, and what I've been reading this morning and writing in my diary. I'm on page 342 this morning. So I just thought I'd make a video. It's been a day. Got some used books. I got a book coming in the mail today. I have this series of books coming in. I ordered, I'll show, a 2-volume set of, I'll show that when they come in. So I hope you're having a good Tuesday. Hope you're having a good Holy Week. And yeah, it's a good week to meditate upon the death of Christ, but also remember that sometimes you walk into a church and you see a cross, or you see a crucifixion, and you have to remember that Jesus rose from the dead and he ascended, and he now sits in heaven reigning as the King of Glory. Sometimes there's so much focus on the death of Christ and his crucifixion. And that's glorious in itself, the cross. We can never stop glorying in the cross. But he rose again, and then he ascended. As you know, we read through the book of Acts. The first chapters of the Acts of the Apostles, you have the great historical redemptive event of Christ's ascension into heaven, being lifted up in the cloud of glory, going into heaven with the armies of God and then you have throughout the Gospels and the Pauline epistles that where Jesus is exalted and he's reigning now as the King of Glory, as the great high priest interceding for his people and gathering his church. So this Holy Week, and we come to Resurrection Sunday, we have to remember that Jesus is no longer nailed to the cross, but now he's seated at the right hand of God Almighty, and he is reigning and gathering his people and building his church, and one day he's coming back. He's coming again, the second coming of Christ. So that's why I said in my last video, oh, come quickly, Lord Jesus, and that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to the eternal kingdom of glory, of the new creation, when all things will be made new. And so anyway, I hope you're having a good Holy Week. Do pray you're all doing well. These are some of the books I got at Action House, my Phillip Lopate collection. Yeah, I didn't start reading essays until I got into BookTube. Now, I've been collecting collections on essays for years and years. I have essays by Norman Mailer, essays by Gore Vidal. I have John Updike, Saul Bellows, D.C. Boyle's collection of essays. I have a huge essay collection, but I really like Phillip Lopate's essays, and that's why I was really pleased to find this volume at Action House yesterday. So I'll sign off. It's going on 27 minutes, and until next time, may the Lord bless. Bye.